Welcome to the Nord Show, a podcast about all things movies and games, where we get hot takes from said influencers and games on those games and movies. I'm your host, Joe. You may know me on TikTok as Cinema Joe, and I'm joined today by SSG Incon. We'll be chatting about their experience creating content, Apex Legends, and gaming, some of their favorite movies, and then just talking about whatever we want to talk about. Incon, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. Appreciate being here.
I'm excited. You picked a movie I haven't seen in a very long time. You play a game that I've been trying to get good at, but I'm not good at yet. So I'm excited to pick your brain. So maybe you can make me better. There's a lot that we're going to be discussing. But before we dive in the rest of the episode, make sure to follow the show on Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Drop a review, suggest a movie you want us to cover. And of course, subscribe to NordVPN on YouTube. All right, let's get to this. Incon, you are a gaming content creator. With the main focus in Apex Legends, let's start with some very simple questions. Why did you start creating content online? Was it always Apex? Was it something else? When was it? What's the brief history of Incon?
Yeah, so the brief history of Incon is I actually did not do content creation first. I would say that I'm most known for Smite, which is a MOBA, and that is a game that I played professionally. Before I ever got into any sort of content creation, and I was actually pushed by the studio over there, High Res Studios, were trying to get their professional players to start making content for the game to help the game get more known. And so I was like, yeah, why not? I guess I can do that and help out. And as it turns out, it is a whole lot more fun than scrimming till 2 a.m.
Now, I am somebody who has very little knowledge on MOBA, Smite, Dota, League of Legends. I played like the Dota tutorial, and it was difficult, overwhelming.
Dota is extreme.
It is extreme. So is Smite on that level of LOL and Dota as well, is in terms of the competitive level?
Yeah, typically I would say that Dota is considered the most complex out of all of the MOBAs.
Oh, interesting.
With Smite probably being below it because Smite is a third-person MOBA. You actually do control from behind your character. It's not top-down like League of Legends and Dota is. And then League of Legends, I would say, is usually considered the easier one to get into. It's also part of why it's so massive.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. When the transition was made to Apex Legends, why did you make the transition and why Apex?
Yeah, so recently I've made basically a transition over to variety content. I have played Smite now for a full decade, and I did that straight. And so at some point, you just gotta try other things because I love all video games. I love all different types of movies, all different types of video games, and I just wanted to be able to explore different types of content. So I've started playing quite a bit of Apex Legends just because, one, it is really popping right now.
Yeah,
it is one of the most popular games, I think the third most popular on live stream right now on Twitch. And also, it is just a blast to play and a blast to watch. And when you see the pros play that game and how smooth they are, it makes you want to be half as good.
I'm not even a fraction as good as they are. Did you start with Apex? Because Battle Royale, obviously a very popular genre. Did you start at Apex, or were you like a PUBG original and then moved to Fortnite, then Apex, or DayZ or anything like that?
Yeah, I've played basically all of the Battle Royales. I love the genre. The first one I ever played was a little-known Battle Royale that basically came first that was called The Culling, which was a very adult-rated kind of very, very Hunger Games-y. We had like the announcer that was kind of making fun of people that were dying on the battlefield and being like, ooh, sucks to suck. And so it was an absolute blast, and it ended up kind of petering out, but the genre just blew up. And I loved DayZ. I never really got into Fortnite. That was the only one that I didn't really get into, which obviously missed a big boom there. That would have been a fun one to be a hold of. But I've played pretty much all the others. Realm Royale, Apex Legends, everything that would come my way.
I remember watching The Calling on Twitch when it first came out and thinking like, man, this type of game is the coolest. I didn't have a PC at that point, though. I could never really play it, but I loved watching people play it online. And then I got into PUBG, and it's like its infancy and was terrible at that, but, put so many hours into it. Like you, I also never really got into Fortnite. The building aspect was just too much for me. And, it's one of those things where if you get in pretty late, it's really hard to kind of keep up with everybody.
Yeah,
Uh,
once people are putting in their 16-hour days and you're like, well, I got 4 hours. It's hard to catch up.
yeah, yeah. It's one of those situations where I'll see somebody, and I'll take a shot, and then they have this big tower, and I'm just standing behind a tree. So yeah, Fortnite I never got into, but I have been playing Apex a lot lately, and like you said, it is just really well made, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I like it so much. There's never a point where I'm experiencing any technical issues. It's just always so fluid, which is great for me because I'm bad at it, but also bad for me because everybody else is really good at it. It can just easily destroy me. But you've built this really great community, and I'm curious to know what your favorite thing is about your community that you've built.
Yeah, so I call my communities the Twitchies. I have Tourette's, and it's pretty obvious when you look at my camera for about 30 seconds. You're like, all right, he is got something going on with him. I sure do. I've got Tourette's, can't really hide it. And so that was also an interesting aspect of just getting into streaming was being on camera all the time. And particularly at first, people, just the only question they would ask is like, what's wrong with you, bro? And I would be like, fair question. And then you'd get into it. But I think the community aspect of just having a place where anybody can just come out, have a good time, relax. I know that I'm not going to be a huge part of your day. I just want to be a place where you can come out, make some friends, play some other games with, have a couple of laughs. You're on your lunch break at work. You've got me on as a radio in the car, whatever. And then you go on about your day and hopefully you feel a little bit better afterwards. And that's really what our community is about.
Amazing, amazing. That's just honestly, to be honest, it's a very inspiring story. I think for a lot of people, streaming is for people who want to start streaming. Like someone, I've dabbled in it. I wouldn't say I even like really pursued it professionally or even intensely, but I think a big part that's hard for people to stream is that nervousness to put yourself in front of a camera in front of strangers. Did you find that to be easy at first, or was it a hard transition for you to get used to?
I actually think that it was not as hard as it could have been.
Mhm.
Part of that is that I would say that I am a introvert pretty through and through. And
Okay.
so streaming was also a little selfishly a way for me to meet people in a more comfortable environment where you've
Amazing.
got the screen to kind of protect you a little bit. And so where some people would maybe get nervous about being on the camera, it was actually that layer of in between zone where it wasn't actually in person. So it was easier for me to communicate with people. And it actually got me quite a bit, I would say, out of my
That's great.
comfort zone. And now I'm much better actually in person as well.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You mentioned you were a variety streamer. We talked about Apex a little bit. What else do you play that's not a shooter? Do you play anything that's more, I don't know, like Elden Ring? Are you an Elden Ring guy, or are you playing
Yeah,
anything
so I
else?
love RPGs. I actually never got into Elden Ring, which I feel like I
Oh,
missed something.
yeah.
But I'm always looking forward to other RPGs. I know you said no shooters, but I have played the Overwatch 2 beta because that just
Oh,
came out recently. So I was checking that out as well. I just played a game called Splitgate, which is kind of like Halo meets
oh yeah, yeah,
Portal,
yeah.
which was a bunch of fun. They've been trying to do a push for some of their new patches and stuff, so that was a blast. But I also just love the RPGs in general, MMO RPGs. I played
Mhm.
Final Fantasy. I played everything but WoW. I tend to do this thing where I end up
Wow,
playing an entire genre except for like
the
the
biggest
biggest
game.
one in the genre, and I don't know how that happens.
Interesting, interesting. As somebody who was an OG Overwatch fan, I haven't played the new one at all. Can you give me your initial thoughts on it? Or I mean, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I actually, one of my friends, Laz's, was a massive Overwatch streamer, friends with Tim the Tatman and all
Oh
them,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Moon Moon. And
Oh, I
so
remember
he
those
was,
guys. Yeah.
yeah, so he was going back and he was playing it. And he described it more as a big Overwatch 1 patch than
Mm.
an entirely new game. Instead of 6v6, it's 5v5. You can have one tank instead of two. And they removed most of the crowd control from the game. So you don't just stand there and die. You're moving when you die, which makes it a little bit more
Oh,
dynamic.
interesting. Okay, okay. Do you find that being 5v5 increases the pace of the game a lot more, or do you
The pace
find
of the game has increased a lot. A lot of people thought that the tank meta was very slow and boring and nothing would happen for
yeah,
elongated periods of time.
yeah.
But nowadays, you're going to find that one team pretty much gets wiped off the board and then gets to come back and you get to do your 5v5 again. A team gets wiped, you come back.
It's good to know. I think I burnt myself out a little bit on Overwatch, and maybe it's because of that meta of it being really slow at times and just not being able to beat two Reinhardt and whomever. But I'm excited to get back into it. It was a game I was really, really into at the time. So you have a nice, varied taste in games. Let's move to movies a little bit. This is a dual podcast on movies and games. What type of movies do you tend to find yourself gravitating towards? Are you like your gaming self? Do you like all genres? Are you a big rom-com guy? You don't want to admit it? Like, what do you?
I actually have seen quite a bit of rom-coms because my wife happens to love them, and I happen to love my wife, and so those kind of end up going hand in hand. I would say that I am a sucker for fantasy. Would be my number one. Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite movies of all times. I'm actually reading through the books right now because reading with Tourette's is quite difficult. And so it is kind of a struggle of mine. One of my great accomplishments in life is having read Game of Thrones. I do not recommend it. It is forever.
Forever with no ending, correct?
And forever with no ending, because there's only 5 books right now. So you don't get to the end of it. And we've been waiting for the 6th book, I want to say over a decade now. It's been over 10 years, I think, since the last one came out.
On Twitter, George R.R. Martin gave an update saying it's going to be coming. It's really long.
Yeah, it's been any day now for like 6 years.
Okay. All right. So any genre. Well, interestingly enough, I sent you a list of movies. I was like, hey, what do you want to talk about? This is your episode. What are you into? And you chose The Hunger Games, which makes perfect sense. You're into battle royales right now. That's kind of your specialty. Hunger Games is a battle royale movie. I'm curious though, why The Hunger Games over any other piece of fantasy fiction? You mentioned you'd watched it recently. Any particular reason you watched it?
Yeah, we had gone back to watch The Hunger Games very, very recently, like days before that you had asked. And we went back to watch it because I had seen all the movies, but not for a long time. And my wife had seen all of them except for the very last one. And I was like, how are you going to watch everything but the culmination of everything that has happened? She's like, I just never got around to it. So then, of course, we had to start at the beginning and go back through the whole thing and refresh all of our minds. And it has aged really well. It is still fantastic. The visual effects are fantastic. The storyline is horrifying. And I kind of don't understand how it got a PG-13 rating when it's literally a movie about kids killing each other. It is horrifying.
Taking the words out of my mouth perfectly. I completely agree with you because I rewatched the first and second one to prepare for this episode. And I forgot how violent it really is.
It's hardcore.
As soon as they're put into the games, they're just straight up murdering each other. And like you said, they're kids being murdered. It is a pretty graphic. It's obviously not graphic because it's PG-13, but considering what we're watching, it was pretty surprising. Now, The Hunger Games was a phenomenon, made a lot of money when it came out. Do you have any memory of it when it came out? Did you watch it in theaters when it came out, like immediately? Had you, read the books or listened to audiobooks or anything like that? Did you have any knowledge when you first watched it?
I did not have any knowledge of The Hunger Games when I was going into it. I did end up seeing all of them in theaters because it is right up my alley because I love the kind of fantasy sci-fi genre. So that's typically where a lot of my interest is. And I remember watching the first one and being, I don't know if there's a way to expect. I had friends that had read Hunger Games all around me, and they were like, yeah, it's kind of this crazy movie about these kids that get thrown into a ring. And so I had like the kind of Spark Notes version of what was going to happen. But I think there's something different between having somebody tell you that, oh yeah, man, no, this is really like 15-year-olds like stabbing each other with spears, and then watching a 15-year-old just get like shot through by an arrow and just being like, there he goes. And it's like, okay, we're really doing this, right? It's not like, okay, they're going to be fine. It's like, they've been eliminated.
Yes.
Ooh, District 11, sad. Like, it's like, okay, we're getting right into it.
Cannon goes off. It's a big event when someone, perishes in the games. Yes, that's definitely true. Kind of a tangent, but maybe not a tangent. Are you a big theater guy? Or are you a big movie theater guy? Do you find yourself going to movie theaters a lot to watch movies? Or are you more of a movies at home person?
I This is kind of a bougie answer, but it's the right answer. I like movie theaters more now that there's movie theaters where you can like reserve your seat and you don't have to show up 35 minutes beforehand
Yes.
and you get like a
Yes.
cozy recliner and you get the chill. And I can focus on the movie and I don't have to worry about all of the hubbubaloo beforehand. So the answer is yes, but I would rather pay like an extra $2 to go to the fancier theater. Luckily, I live in Arkansas, so
Mhm.
movie theater tickets here are actually pretty cheap in general. They're like $11,
Oh,
and I know that
nice.
I get yelled at people on the coast that are like, it's like $20+ for me to go to the movies, man.
Yeah,
So
it's an event. Luckily, there are now theaters with like subscription services where you pay X amount of dollars. So someone like me who goes 5, 6 times a month, I can pay
yep,
$22 a month and see everything for 20
yeah, that's
bucks a month,
great.
which is nice. Not a bougie answer. I will defend you to the day I die. The advent of the internet and cell phones allowing us to reserve seats is so nice. It is so
So
nice to not
nice.
wait in a line for 45 minutes to get a seat at the very front. I pick my seat, I walk in 10 minutes before. It's a beautiful feeling. So,
Exactly.
completely agree with you on that one. Back to the Hunger Games. Do you have a specific film in the series that you like a lot? Do you like one the most, two the most?
I actually like them as they go along further. I'm a sucker for I would say I'm a sucker for the beginning of giant epilogues and the very end of epilogues.
Oh,
Everything in the
interesting.
middle to me gets a little bit lost, but I love the feeling of when you're starting the journey, and I love the culmination of the journey coming to the end. So the very first, I would say the first and fourth movie are probably my favorite, just because of that
Oh,
reason. Starting off the whole series of like watching Katniss as you know she's gonna go through and she's gonna become the Mockingjay and she's gonna save everybody. And then at the very end, just like watching everybody make their final heroic sacrifices at the last moment that you know her sister dying at the very just
moments.
moments before victory, her sister
Yes.
dies. And it's just like, I don't know, just sweeps you right under.
That's a really good answer. I think that I don't really think about that sometimes, but you make a good point that sometimes you can get lost in the middle, especially because it's technically a 4 movie series,
Yes.
not a 3 movie series. But I completely agree. Sometimes you can forget the things in the middle, but you always remember the beginning, and you definitely always remember the end. So that's a good point. Now they've announced a prequel, which I guess just recently they announced like a date of 2024. I think.
Okay.
Um, Excitement for that. Would you be interested in watching that?
I'm a giant lore nerd for any universe you want to put me in. I don't care if it's Hunger Games or Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. If you want
Okay.
to give me background lore, I am in. So if you want to go back in time and talk more about like formation of districts and all of that kind of stuff, or like earlier Hunger Games, like earlier Quarter Quells in stuff, I am 100% diving head in. I
Incon is down.
love lore.
All right, that's good. You can book Incon a ticket in 2024.
Yes, you can.
He will be there. Perfect. No, it's natural to talk about the Hunger Games as a battle royale. There's a couple of the battle royale movies out there. There is the movie Battle Royale. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that or watched it.
I have, and not for a long time.
Yes.
It has not aged as well, if I recall.
No, it is the hard R version from Japan. That's I guess if you're looking for a more gruesome take on the trope, that's a good recommendation. But I'm curious. I like to always apply your video game knowledge with your movie knowledge.
Okay.
Apex Legends is a battle royale.
Yep.
If they were to make this a movie, I don't know too much about the lore of Apex. Is there a clear winner who wins out of the Apex characters? Or is there somebody who's like, this person wins?
That's a good point. They actually make fantastic trailers for Apex Legends when like they're coming out with new seasons and stuff. And so they've got some fun lore there with the characters, and some are in relationships and like brother and sister and all that stuff. Part of me would like to say that in a real situation, if it ended up indoors, Caustic just wins because he has a gas mask and nobody else does. And so your options are stay outside in the ring and get zapped to death, or go inside and get gassed. And it's just like, you don't really have an option. So if it ends up indoors, I think just being immune to, Caustic just takes it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Hopefully, we don't get any angry Apex fans writing letters in saying, actually, Incon, it's going to be this person winning. Valkyrie will win.
Hey,
Elena.
Caustic did very well in pro gameplay too. So
There
the
we go.
classic, the Valkyrie Gibby Caustic team was a big play.
Perfect. This actually just came to me right now because somebody recently asked me this, and I wasn't even aware this was a thing. Maybe you don't either. But apparently, similar to the Twilight heydays, where there was a Team Edward and Team Jacob,
Okay.
in the Hunger Games there is a Team Peeta and Team Gale.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure.
Are you Team Peeta or Team Gale? Do you have a preference on who Katniss should have been with?
Yeah, I always lean towards Gale as a person.
I
I
did
think that
too.
I think I'm inclined to like him, but later on in the movies, he may or may not be responsible for the death of Katniss's sister, kind of. So
Kinda, sorta, yeah.
I would say that Peeta is actually the better person, which is
Got
maybe
it.
a hot take, but I actually think that he's a better person in his heart, and that Gale is just more handsome.
Okay, that's a really good answer because I kind of forgot that Gale had a not a major hand in the death of Prim, and I was on my own live on TikTok, and someone asked me
Yep.
that question, and I was like, "Oh, I think I'm Team Gale," and everybody erupted in the comments. He's the one that caused Katniss' sister's
Yep.
death. I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
everybody. I kind of forgot."
Yeah.
So I think you
up
made
until
the
that
right
point,
answer.
he's it's like he's
Yeah.
kind of like Team Gale, and then that happens, like, ooh, I think I gotta kind of switch right now.
Yes, yeah, good point. All right, we could probably talk about the Hunger Games all day. Let's take a quick ad break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of your favorite movies that maybe aren't sci-fi or fantasy. So we'll be right back. Are you missing out on your favorite shows because it's not available in your region? Trying to keep your private time private? Well, let me introduce you to NordVPN. If you're bored of US Netflix, why not take a spin on the UK? Using NordVPN, and at a click of a button, you can do just that. No need to travel to Japan for your favorite anime when NordVPN brings it right to you. With 5,000 plus servers, no show is out of your reach. Make sure to use Incon's link in the description of the episode to get a great deal on NordVPN and support Incon's channel. All right, Incon. We talked a lot about fantasy. You made it clear that you're a big Lord of the Rings guy.
I am.
I'm forcing you to pick some movies outside of the fantasy realm.
Yes.
Any movies that you just love, you watch every day, your top 3, comfort, guilty pleasures, anything like that?
Yeah, I like more historical movies
Oh,
as
okay,
well.
cool.
Gladiator might go into the realm of a little bit of fantasy in some genres, but it's a little bit more in like realism based.
Yeah, I would say it's more
I love
historical
it.
drama.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So I'm a huge fan of Gladiator. It might arguably be my favorite movie of all time.
Very nice.
There's action, there's love, there's revenge. There's so much good stuff in it. Along that same lines, Glory. If you've never seen
Oh, yeah.
Glory,
Big
Denzel
Glory fan.
Washington, Morgan Freeman in a absolutely horrifying movie that is based off of real life. Everybody should watch it. If you didn't have to watch it in high school history class, then you should go watch it because it is an eye opener and it is
Yeah.
also beautifully filmed and beautifully acted.
Yeah. Good. That's good ones. Any comedy fan? Are you a big comedy guy?
I find that I like stand-up comedy quite a bit, and I find that I'm kind of hard on comedy movies.
Interesting.
I like the way that comedians get to use their body language and go about their storytelling, because comedian storytelling is basically their version of movie lore. And so I like that aspect a little bit more than maybe like punchy gags and stuff like that are end up in comedy movies.
Mhm.
But I am a fan of some comedy movies, particularly some of the classics. My name actually comes from Monty Python and the Life of Brian. When he's
okay.
making fun of Biggest Dickus, he mentions that he has a wife, Incontinentia buttocks. So I shortened that to Incon. So I
Incon,
love
there we go.
all of the Monty Python, Holy Grail, Flying
Yeah.
Circus, all of their stuff. And also a big shout out to Airplane, which is the best singular comedy movie of all time, in my opinion.
Yes. It's like you're reading my mind. I feel like I tell people very often that if I were to pick one comedy that I could watch every day for the rest of my life, it would probably be Airplane.
Oh, it's so good. It's still so funny.
Yes. It hasn't aged a bit. It's still hilarious. Every line is quippy and smart, and that's why I think I like it. It's not I don't mind the comedies with a lot of gags and maybe forced comedic skits, but this one just feels like really smart and it's always fresh and funny. So I'm a big Airplane fan. You mentioned stand up. Did you check out Bo Burnham's Inside, or if you did,
I
how did you feel
sure
about it?
did. Terrible, as I think it was supposed to make us feel. I also think that it's a really cool movie to talk about as well,
Yeah.
because I actually think if you were to go watch it right now, if you had just heard about it right here on this podcast and you went to watch it, I think that it is probably 50% worse than it was the day that it came out, because
Hmm.
it came out at such a specific time during the
Oh, good
pandemic
point.
when everybody was feeling that exact same way of where, like, at first the pandemic was fun. This is going to be where we all get to stay home for a week. It's like a staycation. And then everybody was like, oh, this isn't ending. And then it was like, oh, I know people that have it. And then it was like, oh, people in the hospital, people are dying. It got really serious, really quick. And I think that when it came out and everybody was in this terrible mindset of like, things are horrible and will it get any better? And then he comes out with this beautiful comedy that didn't avoid all the terrible things, but also just made you laugh and smile in a time where you know that he was living through the same thing. I just thought it was really beautiful. And he actually ended up winning an
Grammy?
Oscar for it. I think he
Not
got
an Oscar. I think either a Grammy or an Emmy. One of those two.
I think he might have gotten for. I think it might have been an Oscar for his song.
So I will say, as somebody who watches the Oscars every year, I wouldn't say I bet on it. I'm not going to say that on a
It
podcast,
wasn't during
but-
the show. It was one of the ones that didn't make the show, I think.
Oh, that could have been it. That could have been it. But have you ever thought of starting your own musical analysis, comedy analysis? That was really well said. That was you really captured exactly what that stand-up was and how it affected people. I mean, exactly that. I really have nothing to add except that as somebody who watched it, I turned 30 maybe a few weeks before that.
Okay.
And there's that whole song about him turning 30 as well.
Yes, there is.
Definitely resonated with me probably more than it should have. But I think you said it really well when it was that if you were to watch it now, it probably doesn't have the same impact, because you're right. When we all watched it, we were in that same mindset. And there was a pretty surprisingly dark, but also really funny way of capturing how we all felt. I don't know if you can remember any particular song that you like the most off the album. I feel like I find myself singing parts of every song all the time. That's why.
Yeah, the one song that always stuck to me the most was his song about the internet. A little bit of everything, all of the time. The inability to not put the phone down, to not stop consuming content, to the inability to be bored for a moment. The worst thing that could happen to a person is to be bored. So pick up your phone and look at something, anything.
Yes. Yeah. I like that one a lot. I'm a big fan of the Jeff Bezos song. That's a good one. Also a very big fan of, I think it was White Woman's Instagram. That's the one I always think about a lot too. That one's a really funny one.
I think that's his most like two-sided song. On the whole song, you're making fun of somebody pretty blatantly. Like you're laughing at an entire group of people, and then you're immediately hit by I'm the baddie. Like, that is a real person. And then you're immediately back to laughing at them again. And it's just like, you can like feel yourself being like, I get it now. I probably shouldn't have been judging.
It's the genius of the album, is that there's a lot of that moments of like laughing, but then realizing that maybe we should be judging people. Yeah, wow, great analysis. Nice. That's wasn't expecting to talk about Inside today, but I'm really glad that we are, because that was a real great treat when it came out. Switching gears, we've talked about fantasy and sci-fi a lot.
Yep.
If you had to pick 3 fantasy/sci-fi movies that you love, that's not the Hunger Games. Is it too challenging if I say no Lord of the Rings, or
you can say no Lord of the Rings because I've always got The Hobbit, so it's fine. So it's not a big deal. So I can always cheat my way out of it. I also am a huge fan of Harry Potter. I was not originally a fan of Harry Potter. I would say it was not something that came naturally to me. But my Lord of the Rings is my wife's Harry Potter.
Oh,
And so
okay.
she knows the books inside and out. She can tell you every fun fact, every professor of every school of wizard, all of it. And I, being a sucker for lore, when I would watch the movies, I'd be able to go, so what does that actually mean? Or did that really happen in the books? Or can you give me the deep dive on that? And then there you go, a 30-minute tangent on what was happening. So I would say the Harry Potters have grown to have a very special place in my heart on top of that.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm a big Harry Potter fan in terms of the movies as well. I tend to gravitate towards the fourth one. Goblet of Fire is one of my favorite ones. I like Prisoner of
Are we
Azkaban
the
a
same
lot.
person right now? What is
We
happening?
might be. We
That
might
is
be.
also my favorite Harry Potter.
Yeah, Goblet. I love Goblet. I
Yeah,
can watch
it's
it.
fantastic.
Part of me thinks it's because anytime there's like a tournament setting in any type of movie, I'm always like, it doesn't even matter if the movie's bad. I'm just like already in. I'm addicted. Like I want to watch. I want to watch these fantastical competitions and see people lose and win and pretend that I could be in them.
It plays out to me like the way that role-playing games are. It's like you watch your character going on their quest and embarking on their journey, and they kind of level up and they're figuring out more things and they're going. I love the idea of the tournament and I love how it feels to watch. It's so good. My wife's favorite is actually the third movie.
Yes, yeah. And that one's the one that a lot of people tend to gravitate towards as the
Yep.
best one. It's a little bit darker and it's a little bit more serious, but I also love that one. So it's a great pick. I give kudos to your wife for loving that one. Did you check out Dune last year in terms of sci-fi? It was a pretty big movie. I don't know if you got a chance to watch Dune.
I did watch Dune. I watched through part of, I don't know. Being the worst is I like to watch through all of the Best Picture nominations at the Oscars every year because I find that to be interesting to find whether a movie is what I call regular good or Oscar good. And I try to make the distinction between them. And Dune is what I would call regular good. I was actually surprised that it was nominated for Best Picture because it didn't have that Oscar flair to it, is what I would call it.
Yeah,
something like Power of the Dog, which was, in my opinion, one of the worst movies I've ever watched.
Wow.
And the fact that it was the most nominated movie, I think, is an atrocity, although it didn't win anything except for maybe, I know, it won Best Director, and I think that might have been like
that was
the only thing that it really won.
That was
so,
yeah.
You know what? You get what you get.
Well, that's you're entering my realm now. I do the same thing. Actually, I take it a step further because it's been my passion and what I do on social media as well as the movie stuff. And so I watch everything that's nominated, including shorts and animation. So I commend you for watching The Power of the Dog because you make a good point. There is a difference between maybe regular good and Oscar good. And Power of the Dog is maybe more for that group of people. It's not a movie I would recommend to somebody on the streets. Hey, check out Power of the Dog. I would probably get yelled at a lot because it's not everybody's cup of tea for sure.
It and Licorice Pizza were my bottom two. I've never seen a movie with less of a cohesive story than Licorice Pizza, which kind of just jumped, and then there was waterbeds, and then there was like this really weird relationship that was inappropriate between like a 30-year-old and a 14-year-old, and it never really got brought up, and it was just glossed over, and I was like, we're really doing this right now. This is, I don't know, this has got some weird Hollywood energy.
Yeah, that was on my lower end of the spectrum as well. I wasn't the biggest fan of Licorice Pizza. I did like Coda. I thought that was a really
Coda was so good. It deserved everything it got.
Yeah, I was happy to see it win. It was really a good moment for the win, and I was a big fan of that. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering which Oscar movie to check out Coda. That was a really good time.
Great. Highly recommend it.
I bring up Dune mostly because I felt like Dune was a pretty polarizing movie last year. Mainly because, well, it was a part one. And you get a lot of arguments saying, well, I didn't like it because nothing really happened. I'm curious to know if that's the way you felt.
I enjoy long, drawn out epics. I'm a big fan. I would say that I'm harder on movies than TV shows because in TV shows, you might get 10 episodes that are all an hour long. And so you just get to go into the world and the lore and the story, and you get to do all the side things that maybe you don't have enough time for to do in the movie format. I didn't know really anything about Dune going into it. So I just kind of sat down and enjoyed the ride and got a little into the world. And I just want to know. It wasn't like my favorite movie of the year or anything, but I do want to know more about the world. I want to see the characters develop and learn more about all of the different monsters that are kind of out there in the world
Yeah.
and the powers that people have. I find that stuff to be very interesting to me as
Yeah.
just kind of like a general nerd.
I completely agree. Actually liked it a lot, but I'm on the same wavelength as you in the sense that I loved everything that I learned about the world. I just want more now. I'm
Yeah.
ready for Dune Part 2. Give me more of the world, the people, the culture, the monsters. I want to know more. I
Yep.
want to just soak all of that in. The last one I'm going to bring up to you is Avatar, which came out feels like
That's so
forever
funny.
ago.
I almost just made fun of Avatar while you were talking about Dune, and I almost said, hopefully we get Dune 2 faster than we got Avatar 2. That's insane.
Yeah, it's like we're in each other's minds right now. Avatar came out, oh gosh, 2009, I believe it came out. We're now past 10 years. Avatar 2 is finally it's on the horizon, at least we can say. The trailer will be released in the next couple of weeks. I think in a week and a half it will come out. Curious to know if you saw Avatar 1, what do you think of it? And has it been too long for Avatar 2?
I sure did see number 1, not as many times as my grandfather, who saw it, I think, 5 times in
Oh,
theaters. Have
dang.
no idea why. That was the movie that stuck with him, of all things. I thought it was a solidly decent movie.
Mhm.
Cool special effects. I don't really do 3D. Tourette's 3D doesn't really work together.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't really do that aspect of it, which was supposed to be legendary and mind breaking, but I never got to experience that. So I just did regular Avatar. It's cool. It was fine. I enjoyed all of the visuals and all of the work they put into it. And I'm sure that water themed Avatar will have awesome underwater content to absorb through osmosis. And I bet it will probably be an okay storyline.
Okay. That's again, I feel like I promise people listening right now, I'm not just like blindly agreeing with Incon here. This is actually how I feel. I saw Avatar when it came out, and I felt whelmed, not underwhelmed, not overwhelmed. Just this was fine. It was good. It was entertaining. 12 years later, 13 years later for a sequel is a little excessive, I would say.
It's a long time.
It's a really long time. I've seen some images here and there of Avatar 2, and yeah, I'm excited, but not like frothing at the mouth, like ready to pounce on it. Excited.
I will not be at the midnight showing.
Will not be at the midnight showing for Avatar
No.
2. I agree. So I just thought it was interesting because there seems to be two camps. There's like the really passionate diehard fans who have been waiting 13 years. But it feels like most people are like kind of us. We'll watch it, but we haven't
I'll
been
see
waiting.
it for sure. I'll probably see it once, and then I'll be like, all right, Avatar 2, we did it.
Awesome. Any shout outs, any sci-fi movies that you feel like you want to just quickly mention that you love that you think could be your followers to be surprised you like or anything like that?
I don't know. I like kind of, I would call them like teeny bopper sci-fi fantasy shows too, like kind of like the cheesier kind of one-offs. You get a season or 2 on like Netflix or whatever, and you get to
like
just
what?
kind of go into the world. There was one called The Order, which was kind of like in the world of like magic, and it was like a coven, and there was also some werewolves, and it was so very okay. But I like just getting to jump into a world and be like, yeah, man, this is gonna be fine. And because it's a TV show, I always feel like I can just not watch the next episode if I don't want to. But once I start a movie, I'm in. I never turn off a movie like ever.
Oh wow, we
So
are the
once
same. I never do that either.
I never turn off a
usually see
movie.
it to the end.
I'm like, well, what if it really gets good in the last 10 minutes? And I know that people would have said that about Power of the Dog if I didn't, and I disagree. It did not make the movie better. It's been done before. It is copied.
Okay. Are you a big Stranger Things guy?
I do like Stranger Things. I have seen all of Stranger Things. I know that they've got another season coming out, and the dropping of the Stranger Things trailer had absolutely nothing to do with their stock price plummeting 35% 6 hours beforehand. Completely unrelated.
Completely unrelated. Okay. Last question. Real last question. The date of this recording is May 4th. By the time people hear it, it's not May 4th. But
Yes.
we're recording on May 4th, which May the 4th
May
be
the 4th
with
be
you.
with you, indeed.
Star Wars guy, yay, nay. And if you had to pick one Star Wars movie, or not even movie, TV show, what did you have? Do you have a favorite?
I was not very knowledgeable on Star Wars, but being a streamer, that seemed to not be the case. And so when Disney Plus came out, I watched through every single Star Wars movie. And
Dedication.
my favorite Star Wars movie, by far, not even close, was Rogue One.
Oh,
I think
Incon,
that
we
it
are the
is
same person.
such a special movie. It seemed almost more hardcore than other ones, particularly the last like 30-minute sequence of that movie really like blew my mind. And then there's the epic sequence where you get Darth Vader for like, I guess would be like the first time basically that you would see him, where depending on like the timelines, but it's so cool.
Yes. Wow. I was excited for you to say Rogue One, but I was like, I feel like people are not going to believe me. But yes, Rogue One is definitely my favorite Star Wars project as well. And I will admit, though, when I first came out, I wasn't the biggest Rogue One fan.
Okay.
It took about 2 rewatches to really just fall in love with it. And I agree with you in the sense that last 35 minutes is just pandemonium and edge of your seat chaos. And then that Darth Vader scene is one of my favorite scenes with Darth Vader ever.
It's so good.
So glad that you were able to binge it all, because it does feel like maybe being in streaming, you kind of have to be knowledgeable of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I want to know like the most popular of the fandoms and stuff so I can engage with the content. And especially like if there's like a new Star Wars game coming out or something, like I want to have background for it. And I also think it was fun to watch them. I watched them all in the order that they were made. So I did it from the oldest all the way to the newest, including the off-brand ones like Han and all that kind of stuff. So I did Solo and all that. And so it was fun to get to watch through them. Solo, on the other hand, not that good in my opinion. So
not a fan of Solo at all.
And I watched it. Honest. I think I watched it right before Rogue One. I forget the exact order of time that came out. It's been about a year since I watched them all, but they were pretty close together when I watched them. And so it was like, here's an off-branch movie. And I was like, woo, baby, that is an off-branch movie. You're right. And then I was like, oh, I got to watch another one. And then I was like, wow, that is so good.
That's amazing. Yeah. I feel the same way about Solo. I was not impressed by it, but Rogue One I was impressed by. So that's really funny that I get it. You want to watch them to really engage with the fans because they are so popular in mainstream culture, even in gaming. So that makes perfect sense. Okay. Well, I feel like I can just keep going on and on and on with you about basically everything. I always leave and end the episode with a question for my guests. And that is, if there is a video game out there, which video game do you think you want to see translated to the big screen, movie or TV series? Is there a game out there you think this is so good, I think it would be a great movie or show?
I think that it's been done before, not necessarily specifically, but in the universe, I think that anything in the D&D verse has so much potential. And outside of like, we had Vox Machina recently, which was over on Amazon Prime, and they had their season 1, and it was a lot of fun. And that's obviously Matt Mercer and straight D&D from all of their tabletop sessions and stuff. So I think something like Baldur's Gate, which is one of the like most famous RPGs of all time and really known for all of the story and the choices. And they're coming out with Baldur's Gate 3 with Larian Studios working on it right now. It's in its beta stage. I think that you take a beautiful world like that and beautiful lore and all of the D&D know-how and fighting and action and story, and I think it could totally make for a great movie series, 10 episode. Give me a Game of Thrones 10 episode long arc and give me a season. Be awesome.
Yeah, I played Baldur's Gate when it first came out, and I was obsessed with it when I was a teenager, but I think that's a perfect choice. Especially, I think any almost fantasy RPG game, not all, but Skyrim, Oblivion, Baldur's Gate, they all have that potential. It's always there.
Well, we did get to see Witcher go from book to game
to show.
To show. So we've seen the trade right there. We've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Boom, book, bam, bam, right along the line. And so we could totally see that with other games as well. And, we just don't have to, do like Chris Pratt Mario or something. That would be like a silly decision. So we won't do something like that. We'll do Geralt of Rivia, and we'll get the perfect person to play him, and it'll be fine.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. That's a a great reference. I'm excited for that movie out of pure morbid curiosity.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be like an emoji movie situation here.
I know the world is waiting. I'm waiting for that trailer teaser to drop so I can just watch it with everybody in the world. All right, Incon. Well, I greatly appreciate you being here, talking about your creation, your community, and your gaming. We'll make sure to link your episode and your content in the description of the episode. Um, other than that, I guess may the odds be ever in your favor for future Hunger Games or future Apex games.
Of course.
Make sure to follow Incon on social media and on Twitch. And of course, to follow The Nord Show on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Incon, again, thank you for being here. And I hope you have a great day.
It was a ton of fun. Thank you for having me.
Of course.